Welcome to Mental Oasis. I'm your host, Christine Forte. It is my hope that this podcast can serve as a moment of pause during your day, a time to take some deep breaths, to reflect, rest, and then hopefully return to your day recharged and re-energized. In considering the topic for today's episode, I felt that doing a meditation together on compassion could be something that would be really useful to people right now. This is a painful time in our society and communities. The fear and anxiety and disconnection that we experience makes it so much harder. As human beings, we need each other. We need to feel connected, to support one another, and to feel that we are supported. This is part of our purpose as human beings, to have this connection, to relate to one another, to ensure the survival of our communities, of our societies. Now is a moment to embrace this purpose fully and find meaning in it. The foundation of having true compassion for others is having compassion for ourselves, as imperfect, at times struggling, but also as beings trying to improve and to grow. We then can begin to radiate this compassion outward towards others, those around us, those in our communities, our neighborhoods, those in the world as a whole. To share a quote from a very influential teacher, Pema Chodron, having compassion starts and ends with having compassion for all those unwanted parts of ourselves. The healing comes from letting there be room for all of this to happen. Room for grief, for relief, for misery, for joy. I would like us to take these thoughts with us today into our reflection time, but before we begin that, I would just also like to clarify something about compassion. In recording this episode today, I am not trying to say that anyone shouldn't be angry about the vicious wrongs that have taken place in our societies. Anger is an important motivator towards action, towards change. Black lives do matter. Change is needed. And so today, in reflecting on compassion, I would like to encourage that we find ways to nurture love within ourselves so that we can extend it more to those around us who are in pain, as a step towards action, towards change. I invite you now to join me in meditation. In beginning, to share just a few moments, perhaps of healing or just of pause, of reflection, of taking stock, of honoring not only our own struggles, but those of the people around us, of practicing seeing that. And so begin by taking a few deep cleansing breaths. With these breaths, as you breathe in deeply and completely, just noticing first of all what that inhale is like. For many of us, if there is pain or grief or anger or fear right now, sometimes those initial inhales themselves can feel painful or tight or hard to expand into. And that is okay. That is understandable. We can see that within ourselves and extend compassion to it. And perhaps this is the beginning of our compassion practice today. Just to notice what that's like when we begin to inhale. And if it feels difficult, if it feels painful to do that, I would encourage you actually to even just pause here. Pause the episode and do this as many times as needed until you feel ready to continue. And if you do pause, to just practice the inhale and the exhale. Do that with a sense of honoring, of acknowledging the experience right now. And just continuing with the inhale and then pushing out as strongly as you can on the exhale. Trying to just as completely expel the air outwards. Envisioning that you are cleansing something from within you. Breathing in deeply and completely if it feels accessible to do so. But if not, just allowing that breath to be what it is. Perhaps it may feel more appropriate to just allow it to expand by increments. That perhaps each breath becomes a millimeter or a micromillimeter deeper. To allow that to happen as slowly or as gradually as needed. And only to the extent that it feels safe to do so. Having this patience, this honoring, this is the beginning of compassion. Noticing the experience of that breath. Noticing the sensations in particular in the heart and in the chest. These are the parts that tend to get the most stuck when we're feeling painful feelings or when we're trying to extend compassion to those. And again, pausing here for as many deep breaths as is needed till you feel ready to continue. And then breathing in as deeply and completely as feels accessible to you. Envision expanding the heart. To have compassion radiating from it. Acceptance. For whatever emotions may come. If there is a feeling of warmth, perhaps even of love in the heart, allowing this feeling to grow, to begin to radiate through and around your chest, your back, allowing that sense of love to expand if it feels possible until it encompasses your entire being. And just pausing there for a moment. To notice the experience, to check in to what it feels like. To have allowed that feeling of love to grow and radiate outward from the heart. What does it mean? What shifts or changes when you do that? Notice also if it feels painful or uncomfortable at any time to do that. For that also can be part of the experience. It isn't always easy to expand our hearts, to truly foster love within ourselves. And then if you can, if it feels safe to proceed, to envision that expansion of the heart of love and have it radiate around to those closest to you. For many people, this step in the process actually feels a bit easier somehow than having the love encompass your own being. And if so, just enjoy that feeling if there's a sense of relief in it. Or if it does feel challenging, just noticing that too. Any experience is okay here. There's no shoulds or supposed tos. Just acknowledging, expanding that sense of compassion, of love to those in your immediate sphere. And then if you can, imagine expanding it further outward to encompass your neighborhood or your community. You might even call to mind some of the people you see regularly in your neighborhood or community. You may or may not know them, may or may not have a relationship with them. That's okay. But just calling those people to mind and sending them these feelings of compassion, of caring, of understanding, of seeing them. Breathing deeply. And again, pausing here for as long as you need to. As you envision one by one, or perhaps all as a group, extending, expanding your heart to encompass your entire community, to send them all this warm compassion. Stretching out beyond that to your wider community, your state, your nation, perhaps even until your heart and compassion can expand across the entire world, reaching the people everywhere who need it. Holding all of them in your heart and connecting to them. Sending loving compassion, kindness to anyone now who may need it, wishing them well. Taking time now to truly absorb and expand into that experience. As many deep breaths as you need here. And you can sit for as long as you like with that feeling to reflect on that. Again, pausing if needed. It has been said that the feeling of compassion truly takes on meaning when we use it for action. So perhaps a closing thought for today could be to ask yourself who you could reach out to and show your support to. Maybe someone you know, or perhaps someone that you simply see around, but someone with whom you could share compassion. To just ask how they are. Let them know that you see them, that you're thinking of them. Reflecting on that as we pause there for today. Thank you once more for joining me on Mental Oasis, and I hope you found this time together useful and restorative. I'm Christine Forte, and you can find the Mental Oasis community on Facebook or more information at forteclots.com. All of the details are in the show notes. Thank you, and I look forward to sharing with you again next week.